So this Friday the 13th, I ventured out into the cold, dark night and saw Freaky, directed by Christopher Landon and starring Vince Vaughn, Catherine Newton, and a whole lot of dead meats. And it was pretty much what you'd expect from the ads, and not much more. But man, does that expectation some good fun. The body swap is a fascinatingly specific yet durable subgenre, encompassing everything from sex comedies to melancholy anime. Freaky joins those diverse ranks with the novel hook of a body swap comedy slasher. Its implicit full title, and the pun from which I've no doubt its elevator pitch arose, is Freaky Friday the 13th, down to an audacious aping of the date for the plot's chronology. We open on Wednesday the 11th as some teens swap campfire stories of the Blissville Butcher, who's said to slay kids every year on homecoming night, which is just days away. As the kids poke around the adjacent manor, they come across a room full of assorted relics, including a mysterious-looking ancient dagger labeled Ladola. One boy heads downstairs in search of booze, and it's there that the masked butcher appears and gruesomely dispatches him. The butcher makes his way through the rest of the teens in short order and vanishes into the night, though not before pilfering that dagger. Cut to Thursday the 12th, and we meet Millie, an average teenager. Her sister Charlene is a cop, and her mom is a bit smothering and struggles with drinking after her dad passed away last year. She's got friends and a crush, the jocks and mean girls at school pick on her, and she's struggling with whether she'll be able to go to college. Her classmates are on edge too after they get an emergency alert about last night's killings. Nevertheless, homecoming festivities continue, and by the end of it all, Millie is just looking forward to a ride home. Unfortunately, her mom fell asleep and her phone died. Just when it seems like things can't get any worse, the butcher appears. He tackles Millie and stabs her with a dagger, but Charlene arrives in the nick of time, sending the butcher packing and whisking Millie away to the police station to recuperate, while the dagger is taken into evidence. Cut to Friday the 13th, and Millie awakens to regard her room with confusion, while the butcher arises on a filthy mattress to scream at the sight of psychotic sculptures decorating a decrepit lair. The situation becomes clear. By some magic, Ladola has made the butcher and Millie switch bodies. And from there, it becomes a race against time for Millie to acclimate to her new form and convince her pals to help her try to somehow get her old body back before the butcher tears through homecoming in the perfect disguise. Casting Vince Vaughn as a serial killer may seem odd, but it's a natural fit after he proved his dark side bona fides as a mobster and true detective, and a vicious inmate in Brawl in Cell Block 99. Conversely, the droll cockiness which defines his back catalog is here swapped for an infectiously anxious energy, all shrieking at scares and running to or from danger with dainty steps. Millie is at first frightened and later empowered by her newfound strength and imposing figure. Being trapped in the form of a wanted criminal creates a perfect dramatic dilemma, as does Ladola being in police custody when Millie's sister is on the force. However, as time passes, she gains the confidence to find inner strength as well. It's a well-trodden but genuine tale of personal growth conveyed with a frightening yet goofy metaphor for struggling to be yourself. Seeing the leads pair off and swap mannerisms is a simple but fun gimmick, though unfortunately a tad one-sided. Butcher as Millie never really gets a chance to chew the scenery or play with her dissonant personality like Vaughn, and the killer has no particular tick which would be amusing to see juxtaposed on a girl. A disparity in acting chops is probably part of it, but the screenplay also puts the actors in a corner. Because he has an emotionless affect a la Michael Myers, and for a lot of screen time imitates Millie to deceive others, the Butcher never gets a good reason to just ham it up. Yet while archetypical, the character of Millie is neither a bubbly bimbo nor a disaffected Daria, which helps prevent the performance from coming off as one-note or misogynistic as it might have had this been produced in an earlier era.
So, can I see it?
I don't think you get the gravity of the situation here.
Indeed, the film avoids dwelling on any implications of its gender-flip premise in a way that would be too crass or preachy, though it does slip in plenty of bathroom humor and a pronoun joke that actually lands. And Vaughn's range isn't limited to just acting girly, even though he totally pulls off a cheerleader dance. In a heartfelt segment, Millie mourns her father alongside her unwitting mom through a changing room door, and she later shares an awkward but sincere moment of intimacy with her crush. I never expected a film to depict romantic tension between Vince Vaughn and a teenage boy, but that this scene contains nary a gay joke or ironic outro demonstrates that the filmmakers do have a respectful finger on the pulse of Gen Z. In that spirit, the film smoothly nestles its events in 2020, although there's definitely some clunkers in the dialogue, mostly involving saying hashtag out loud. And yes, a Snapchat dog filter is employed at one point. But it's not all high school shenanigans. As a horror comedy, the film doesn't rest on its laurels on either side of the aisle. A man gets sawed in half, and plenty of other folks lose heads, eyes, and miscellaneous limbs in graphic fashion. Much like 303, writer-director Landon just sets them up to knock them down. And so every interaction of bratty classmates, snide professors, or abrasive locals is one you can bookmark for a variably justified mangling once the butcher's incognito. So too does the film load an entire arsenal of Chekhov's guns, from one character's encouragement to always set your watch 5 minutes ahead, to a complicated secret handshake among friends. Setting-wise, the mansion in the opening is convincing and creepy, and Blissfield is a peppy stand-in for the Anytown USA captured in many classic chillers. We even get a menacing red tint over the Universal logo and a stock but stirring orchestral score throughout. Such nods to retro horror are general but also specific. Millie takes a bath at one point that, with her blonde hair done up, evokes Heather Langenkamp in Nightmare on Elm Street, and a subsequent knife through a door is pure shining. It's a throwback, but the film doesn't stew in 80s aesthetics like some competitors that grasp for cult status. The cinematography and script deliver precisely what they need to. Pitch-perfect comedy shots juxtaposed with tense, dark horror. The needle drops are suitably askew too, emblemized no better than when Que Sera Sera segues into Screamo to herald Butcher Millie's campus debut. The Butcher donning a crimson jacket and matching makeup to become Murder Barbie is a delightfully sadistic twist on the drab to fab reveal, although Newton is implausibly cute to be so harangued by the popular kids to begin with. Add pretty, awkward to a list of cliches on display. Indeed, if the film has one overarching flaw, it's that it's hard to distinguish the tropes it knowingly invokes to riff on the body swap from those that got tossed in for lack of better ideas. A car that won't start, a debauched party gone wrong, a seemingly downed villain rising to stalk again. There's some self-aware bits.
You're black! I'm gay! We are so dead!
But this isn't a Scream or Cabin in the Woods meta-commentary. There's no other films even referenced, so such moments simply rest obtrusively alongside otherwise routine sequences. The film simply presupposes the audience knows what a slasher entails, and so you won't find anything here expanding on the Butcher's background or personality. As anyone who's seen a sequel to Saw or Texas Chainsaw Massacre will tell you, though, over-explaining a monster's history and plan is a sure track to boredom. Predictable though it may become, it's ultimately for the best that Freaky keeps its broad outlines familiar. Some stray thoughts. Millie starts off her mornings by blowing a kiss to a poster of Brendan Urie, which, right there with you, sister. Millie gets a 3% battery warning right before her phone dies at one point, which, that's not a thing, is it? Although nothing creates anxiety like odd numbers. When the Butcher stabs Millie with Ladola and later vice versa, in addition to the sky darkening and lightning crackling, the ground billows away to reveal an Aztec altar beneath them. It's a memorable effect that clarifies the dagger's supernatural nature, but none of the characters react to this, so it's unclear if this is a symbolic flourish or something that actually happens in the film's reality. If the latter, someone should make sure that they're not opening a portal to that hell dimension from the end of the one. Some memorable Vaughn lines. Fudge, I'm a giant. Stop, I'm trying to stab myself. Standing and peeing is kind of rad. The Butcher kills a girl by locking her in a cryogenic chamber that's installed in a locker room, which... what? Is Mr. Freeze an adjunct professor? It's a sudden outlandish death that occupies an entirely different tier of absurdity than a magic dagger, more like a Final Destination kill than anything in this story which is otherwise content with middle-of-the-road slasher beats. Indeed, the film unfortunately exhausts its most creative kills in the opening minutes when it's in straightforward slasher mode. The Butcher first jams a wine bottle down a guy's mouth until his esophagus bursts. I've seen throats slit horizontally by bottle, but never vertically. He follows that up by crushing a girl's skull with a toilet seat, which, in addition to evoking Liar Liar, is not the first time that Vince Vaughn has dispensed fatal head trauma with a latrine. Millie disguises herself with a rubber mask heading into the third act, which seems futile, but if it worked for Ryan Gosling, it can work for anybody. The blacklight mini golf course scene was a lot of fun, visually. I'm easy to please with blacklight in cinema, Batman Forever notwithstanding. Although the film was released on November 13th, security camera footage in the film indicates it's actually set on October 13th, which wasn't a Friday this year, or any recent year that I can recall. But, hey, you gotta set a scary movie in October, so no harm, no foul. And Alan Ruck plays an abusive woodshop teacher with a Sam Elliott mustache. If only as another 80s homage, it's amusing to see Cameron come full circle and assume the Ed Rooney role. Overall, I'd give this film a 7 out of 10. It plays and plays off of the hits from each of its constituent subgenres without bringing much new to the table, but it doesn't have to. Vince Vaughn proves he's still got it as both a comic lead and a menacing heavy, and Catherine Newton and company turn in a nice coming-of-age teen movie amidst the gory gonzo proceedings. In a year full of uncertainty, and in which one of the only other new theatrical releases was a willfully obtuse cacophony, there's something to be said for a flick that successfully sets out to be exactly what it says on the tin. If you dug the trailer, then you'll dig this, and if not, then likewise. But hey, Blumhouse movies are like the weather in Seattle. If you don't like it, just wait a little. But, under the circumstances, it may be wise to wait a lot. As always, you should not see this movie if you're not willing and able to do so safely. Per usual of late, the opening day screening I attended had single-digit audience members, and there was a powerfully liminal energy to the empty halls and corners which surrounded my stroll from a ticket booth. As of this writing, there's another lockdown going on in Washington State, so this may very well be the last film I see in 2020. I don't despair though, because while some large chains like Regal have had to shutter their local doors, I want to believe that the theater industry will be resurrected once we can just get enough people to keep their masks on for long enough to let an eventual vaccine pick up slack and get us back on track. With any luck, 2021 will be the year that we bring humor back into vogue and keep horror stuck safely on the silver screen.